In the early years of the Great War, a weapon emerged that struck fear into the hearts of armies across Europe: the machine gun. Its rapid, unyielding barrage could decimate a large force in seconds, and no formation could hope to withstand its deadly stream. As British and French soldiers left the relative safety of their trenches to storm the German positions, they found themselves caught in a maelstrom of bullets. The relentless machine gun fire transformed the battlefield into a scene of chaos and despair. In the midst of this carnage, a British colonel recalled an imaginative tale by H.G. Wells, a story of an ironclad vehicle that defied the very nature of conventional warfare. This visionary idea, whispered among the high command, eventually reached the ears of Winston Churchill, then Navy Minister. Determined to counter the machine gun's lethal precision, Churchill launched a secret project. To mislead enemy spies, the new creation was given the innocuous name, water tank, even though it had nothing to do with water. This ingenious contraption would soon earn its place in history as the tank, marking a revolutionary step in armored warfare. In 1916, the Allies, Britain and France, devised a bold plan to push the Germans back onto French soil and relieve pressure on the beleaguered Verdun front. They chose the Somme River area as the stage for their assault, where trenches stretched nearly 37 kilometers across the scarred landscape. Soldiers on both sides soon learned a harsh truth. The moment a man lifted his head above the trench, he was likely to be struck down by enemy fire. The Germans had perfected their defenses, constructing 3 layers of trenches with a barren, deadly expanse known as no man's land in between. Deep shelters lay hidden beneath, offering scant refuge from the constant bombardment, while thick nets of barbed wire and strategically placed machine guns, often the formidable MG-08, turned the open ground into a death trap. The British Fourth Army, comprised largely of fresh faces from across the Empire, was eager to break the stalemate. Under the command of General Douglas Haig, they believed that a massive artillery bombardment would obliterate the German front lines, leaving the enemy exposed to an unstoppable infantry advance. In preparation, new railway tracks were laid, roads were repaired, and over 3,000 cannons along with troops from Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, India, and even forces from North Africa and beyond converged on the Somme. Yet, unknown to the British, the Germans had already caught wind of the impending attack and had marshaled their own reinforcements. The assault began on a grey June morning in 1916. For a full week, British artillery unleashed a relentless shower of 1.5 million rounds over the enemy positions, a barrage so intense it transformed the sky into a dazzling yet deadly display. But even with such ferocity, a third of the shells failed to detonate, and only the first line of defense was significantly weakened. At 7:30 in the morning on July 1st, the British launched their ground attack. They easily overran the shattered First German line, but as they advanced into no man's land, they encountered a prepared and determined second line. The German soldiers emerged from their deep shelters, and in a heartbeat, the quiet stretch between the trenches turned into a massacre. British bodies fell in heaps, their numbers staggering as 30,000 were killed or gravely wounded within the first hour alone. Despite this grim reality, the British High Command pressed on. Overconfident in their original plan, they ordered another 60,000 men into the fray, turning no man's land into an even more gruesome killing ground. Amidst the horror, tales of extraordinary bravery emerged. One such story told of William McFadden, a soldier who sacrificed his life by leaping on a live grenade to save his comrades, a valorous act that earned him the Victoria Cross. As the British faltered under the weight of their losses, their French allies launched a surprise attack on a different section of the line. The French soldiers, more attuned to the lethal threat of machine guns, kept low and advanced cautiously. Their well-coordinated assault resulted in far fewer casualties, and they succeeded in capturing key positions along with approximately 5,000 German prisoners. By the time the sun set on that fateful July day, nearly 80,000 men on both sides had been killed or wounded, a day marked by tragedy, with 60,000 British casualties alone, while the French and Germans suffered 7,000 and 12,000 respectively. In the aftermath, the battlefield itself became a graveyard. The staggering casualty rate, one life lost every 4.5 seconds, spoke volumes of the brutal reality of modern warfare. Yet, even as the stunned commanders reassessed their strategies, the relentless fighting continued. British forces, undeterred by the horrifying losses, resumed their advance the very next day. Over the ensuing months, the combat dragged on, with every meter of ground costing an unthinkable price in human life. General Haig maintained that the Somme had achieved strategic gains by diverting German forces and relieving pressure on Verdun, a claim that was met with bitter criticism by contemporaries like David Lloyd George, who decried the senseless slaughter. While the carnage on the Western Front unfolded, a different battle was emerging thousands of miles away. The Allied powers set their sights on the Ottoman Empire, eyeing territories in Palestine and Syria as keys to weakening one of the Central Powers. In the arid expanses of the Middle East, Arab leaders in the Hijaz rose up against Turkish rule, inspired by the charismatic guidance of Lawrence of Arabia. In a dramatic twist, soldiers of Arab and Jewish descent fought side by side under a common flag against the Ottoman forces, heralding a new chapter in the conflict. Back on the Somme, a new weapon was about to make its debut. The British, desperate to break the deadlock, unveiled their most innovative creation yet, the tank. Born from the imaginative spark of Colonel Swinton's recollection of a Wellesian fantasy, these early armored vehicles were developed in secrecy. By 1915, prototypes were tested, and in 1916 the Mark I tank entered the fray. Divided into male versions armed with cannons and machine guns and female versions carrying only machine guns, these armored behemoths were designed to crush enemy defenses, tear through barbed wire, and support infantry advances. Their heavy armor could deflect ordinary bullets, though they remained vulnerable to the crushing force of artillery shells. On a misty September morning in 1916, the first 32 Mark I tanks rolled onto the battlefield. Their arrival was shrouded in secrecy. Even the British soldiers were unaware of the tanks' deployment until the thundering clatter of their tracks broke the eerie silence. As the tanks trudged forward at a slow pace of just 3 miles per hour, infantry followed in close formation. Technical glitches soon became apparent. 14 tanks stalled in the treacherous mud, and 10 of the remaining machines fell victim to German artillery before they could reach their targets. In the end, only 8 managed to fulfill their intended role, a sobering reminder that innovation often comes with growing pains. The battle on the Somme raged for 141 harrowing days. In that grueling contest, the Allied forces advanced a mere 10 kilometers, a distance carved out at an unimaginable cost. Nearly 100,000 casualties for every kilometer gained. The loss was staggering, and the battle came to symbolize the futility and human cost of modern, industrialized warfare. Even as generals in London proclaimed a strategic victory, many critics saw the Somme as a devastating defeat, a tragic chapter that underscored the horror and waste of a war meant to bring about an end to conflict. In the end, the story of the Somme remains a testament to both the ingenuity and the brutal cost of war. The machine gun, a symbol of relentless firepower, had reshaped the battlefield, while the advent of the tank promised a future where armored might could challenge entrenched defenses. This tumultuous period, marked by acts of both despair and heroism, continues to echo through history, reminding us that the lessons of the past are never truly forgotten, even 100 years later.